we're on. Let's go.
Welcome back, my brother. Here you are. As promised to the people that the comeback episode that I stated, I said, wherever, whenever, however, we're going to keep rocking. So today, if you look in the background, I'm here at Charlotte, North Carolina at a training room. I just conducted a training program. I got one more day with this group tomorrow. So we're just at it. And it was interesting that we were evaluating kind of what we want to talk about today, what we had to say. And it was very, very clear what I wanted to look at, which is self-evaluation. Mm-hmm. We are, as it sits right now, it's April 24th. So yes. You're in May. So Q1's over with. You're well into Q2. And I think a lot of people, as I was even asking the group here about sales results in Q1, how they've been doing, everyone's just kind of like, you know what, I'm humming along. You get these subjective answers. Oh, things are going pretty good, right? Which tells me they haven't evaluated a thing. Okay. They haven't actually looked at what their initial goals were, benchmarked that against the probability of success for the next 3 quarters, closing average, their own sales velocity, their own timeline for closing a deal. And I think it's exponentially harder for people who own a business because you're that much busier, that much more going on. And I'm being real intentional at hitting the pause button and saying, all right, where are we and what adjustments do we need to make? So that's what I kind of want to go down the pathway today. I know you're kind of on a journey these days too. A lot has changed since the people have seen you last, right? It's been a while.
Officially part of the team
instead
of
right.
freelancing.
Let's explain how that's gone so far for you, because I know you've it's been quite a journey, right? Mm-hmm. You've gone from certain iterations of what you wanted to do and things are progressing the way you want. But what's your own self-evaluation like right now?
Honestly, the self-evaluation I wind up putting myself in more often than not is, am I too arrogant to learn something new? Am I too stuck in my own ways?
Tell me more.
So for instance, working with you guys, I've actually been kind of forced to delve into AI technology a little bit more. Yeah. Now you would actually sit here and assume Alex has probably really leaned into AI technology and that's something that he really enjoys using.
Yeah.
Not so much. I'm always been a very human aspect to what I like to create. So the idea of typing in a prompt and the computer creating it for me instead of my immediate reaction time creating an image just felt kind of soulless and lifeless, or whether it be a text prompt or what have you. So I've kind of had to take that step back and go, okay, well, where does AI fit within what I do?
Right.
Is it going to be a replacement or is it going to be a tool?
Yeah.
So that's been more or less my self-evaluation, and I've come to my own conclusions on that. It's not important for this episode, but just little things like that and challenging myself and finding new ways to do something instead of always being so steadfast in the way I always do it.
Yeah, well, I think the problem a lot of people are making is they go, well, eventually AI is going to replace, so I might as well just kind of shut the blinders on and go, I'm not going to worry about it because eventually my job might be not. I think I see a lot of people thinking that way. They're starting to pivot already, and really there's a window right now where you can milk this thing for everything that it's worth. And that's what, when I went to Traffic and Conversion Summit in January, it was like 90% of the conversation. And it was so clear that you had people that were ignoring and people that were proactive. And you think, oh, ChatGPT putting in prompts, bro, it is so far beyond that when you're listening to experts of how they're using it. And yeah, it's a tool, but boy, you can either choose to be Blockbuster or Netflix in this situation. So that's good. I'm glad to hear you saying that. Before I go any further, I feel it's important to tell the people that I haven't gone completely broke and that I'm not drinking wine out of plastic cups on purpose.
This was the bottle, so
yeah. I mean, that's a cheap bottle of wine from the restaurant. That was the most expensive one they had. But,
and the cup. So, but we're doing what we've got.
Hey, I'm at corporate, baby. I'm already breaking the rules. So we're still wine and wealth in that.
That's right. That's right.
I have a theory on self-evaluation because logically speaking, it has a positive impact on every measurable of your life, whether it's financial, personal relationships. If you're proactive about self-evaluating, all it does is say, how have I progressed And what do I need to do in this next short iteration to progress some more? And to me, if I look at my own life or as I'm coaching other people, the only reason you would deny yourself self-evaluation is you're afraid to look at in real time on paper or in the mirror, well, the lack of progress that you probably promised yourself at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
And I think that's the wrong way to look at it, because if you've got lack of progress at this point, let's just say you're going to do a self-evaluation quarterly. Mm-hmm. You're still no more than 90 days away from the next iteration of what you could be or the problem that you could have. So we talk about doing QBRs with customers, QBRs with salespeople. The point is, you do those things so you can never let more than a 90-day stretch have a negative impact on what's next, right? You can course correct. It's kind of like course correcting a big ship. You can be a couple degrees off, but if you go that, keep going down that pathway, you meant to hit, China, you'll be in Australia, right? Kind of that thing. So I'm heavy into self-evaluation right now, and I'll give you a really good example for the people out there. I want to talk to specifically people who are running a business or might be in the entrepreneur space for this one. I notice that we get really caught up in your day-to-days. And if you're in your own game, you know what I'm talking about. And also, you've probably had some sort of meeting with your team or the people around you at the beginning of the year. You're like, all right, I'm going to do this. And you wake up and you're like, holy shit, it's May 1st, right? I've been meaning to do that. And you kind of go, well, you know what? I've waited this long. It's so busy. I got to keep going down this pathway. And the reality is the environment around you has already been changing. So, for example, we kind of set out at the beginning of this year, we're tightening up the assets for going to a digital platform for training, right? To reach more people at scale. That's the big thing right now. As I promised everybody, kind of keep you apprised of what's going on in what it's like to grow a business, to start from here to go to here. We've doubled our income in the last year. And so it's been fast growth, a little bit of unmanageable growth, and scale is now the biggest. Revenue was the big goal. Revenue's tight now, we're good. Now it's scalability. How do we break through this ceiling? And so we kind of said, look, let's put to next year our strategy for going to a more virtual platform where we reach the masses, where we're spending more time on the computer training people versus in one of these rooms, right?
Right.
Because this is what you call rival asset. I only have so many days a year. There's only so many people that can get in these seats. Mm. These are great, but I have room for maybe one or two more customers. But we're like, all right, look, we like where the growth is going. Let's put that on to next year. As I self-evaluated, right, and thinking, should that change? I go, okay, and this is no bullshit. This is how I thought about it. Iran's attack on Israel. I don't care where you are on this. It's not a political conversation. But Iran's attack on Israel is probably going to trigger some sanctions, which is going to have a massive impact on gas prices and oil prices, which will have a negative impact on continued inflation, and it will drop. It'll actually increase unemployment again, which will cause people to restrict budgets. And when that happens, people can't travel to these in-person trainings. So that kind of self-evaluation then says, oh shit, well, how would you get around that? We now have to advance the virtual platform up to the forefront of what we were thinking to maybe where now it's in Q2, Q3, as opposed to Q1 of 25. So. Right. That's like a tactical version of self-evaluation. You got personal ones, right?
Even a personal version of that is, for the last, say, 2 months at this point, I've been fully self-employed again. I have always been someone that can knock it out and get it done. Mm-hmm. For some reason, I am now struggling super hard with time management. Yet that used to be something I was amazing at, being able to get something done quickly, efficiently, and look at my day and be like, okay, I've got these couple hours to do this and then this. Ever since I've started doing this for myself, my time management has gone out the window, and I feel like I either have to get everything done all at once, or it's just going to get stressed out, and now I'm going to get overwhelmed, and I'm not going to have any time to do anything.
Yep.
So coming and sitting and looking at it, take the emotion out of it and look at strictly the workload, and then you go, okay, this is all 100% manageable. You just do this,
Right.
and this.
What do you think's, because I have a theory on that, because I've experienced that, but what do you think, how did you come into the outcome of saying, man, I'm not managing this time like I used to be? Like what's caused that for you?
I think it was, so when I had a day job,
Yeah.
more often than not, I had a set schedule. Monday through Friday, I was going in at a certain time.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
on a specific get up, out the door routine. That way, by the time I got home, it was almost like the Pavlov's dog thing. As soon as I was home, I knew I needed to get something in my belly real quick, spend a little time unwinding. Then I've got a couple hours here right before bed before I start really zonking out that I
Right.
can do my podcast edits or my video edits.
Because you were side hustling that part of your life, and it had a
All of a
cadence to it.
sudden, now it's freedom. I have all the time to do it. So you feel like you have more time,
Yeah.
when in reality, you're now wasting that time.
Oh man, you don't want to look back on that. But here's what's the next iteration of that. You go from wasting time to be productive to what I call them time piranhas. People just taking little bites out of your ass. Say, give me, I need a little, and it happens so quick. That's one of the other things we're really fighting right now, is because we're so successful with our clients. And this isn't I sound like I'm an infomercial right now, but the reality is we're doing really well with our clients, so they naturally want to take bites out of you.
Yeah.
And they want more. And scope creep has been so critical to pay attention to, which is another thing that impacts scale. Note well, people, when you do a good job and they want more, it ain't free. I mean, I think it's easier said than done, but it's so emotional around being like, hey, time out, I'm crying uncle, this is a higher investment for you. You may get that point with your other customers and us, right?
Right.
We actually hope you do. That means it's working. So all that being said, you can't jump off of a moving train, right?
Right.
You gotta hit the brakes and somebody goes, let me just sit here for a minute and say, what's the evaluation? I fight for the New Year's resolution. And there's a lot of people that shit on it. They're like, oh, it's so dumb. Like, what is it about the turn of a year that makes? I'm like, well,
I'm one of those people.
I know.
Actually.
I bet you are, because you're that personality. But think of the alternative. What most people do is just never then create a goal.
Right.
They use it as the out. Well, then why didn't you do it September 1st, asshole? I'm not saying you.
I know.
But you're using other people's mechanism for goal setting to validate why you don't do it on your own.
Okay.
Because I can see by the results that you're producing, you don't set out massive goals on September 1st to try and hit them by June 1st. Get out of here, right? So I'm actually a big proponent. If that's what it takes for you to be successful and to aspire to be something great, and then also surround yourself around people that will support you and not shit on your goal there, right? And don't worry, I'm not kicking you out of the circle, right? But if you don't quarterly pulse check, you're right. You really aren't you shouldn't be setting that goal, because I saw when I was reading this book, this is a book I suggest to a lot of people. It's called Getting Things Done by David Allen. And in it, he talks about how you list out all these projects you want done. But his thought process is you don't complete those projects. You complete a task toward the project. So the first thing he would do is say, look, brain dump what you need to do, get it out, and then prioritize them and say, all right, what's the first task to getting that done? So if I have a goal to write a book this year, right? Mm-hmm. I don't go book project to complete. That's not how it works. Well, what is step one to completion? Well, outline, right? Then step two, right? Stories supporting each point in the outline. Step three, story point outcome. Step four, voice to text each one. Step five, then you complete these minor steps along the way to then accomplish the outcome, which is a finished project. So as I self-evaluate, and I'm kind of looking at hey man, I went hard into marketing this year. I got really frustrated at being the person that says, I don't do marketing. I'm not good at marketing. I'm a sales dude. I'm a sales expert. I'm a sales guru, right? Whatever that is. And you know what? I self-evaluated kind of at the end of last year and went, hey bro, you telling yourself that has gotten you jack shit. In fact, it's cost you money because you have to rely on other people to do it. So I went to Traffic and Conversion Summit in Vegas, blown away, right? Valuable information, came back, started implementing, and this is kind of the slow progression that we're seeing now with you now being full on the team, me convincing the team we need that. The only way I was able to convince them of that is exposing some things that I'm aware of that they're not.
Right.
And so now I'm pulse checking, hey, what's next? And some of the things you've heard from me is like, man, the only way we're going to fight the big guys is volume. Come here, Alex, let's record some content. Let's do the podcast. Come in when the training's got an hour left in it, get some B-roll. So we're like...
And for someone like me, I love to hear that because one of the things I wind up struggling with other clients is getting them to that point of wanting to create more.
Oh, well, let's be
volume.
honest. You were so pissed at me for years because I sucked at that.
I wasn't going to go there. Yes.
But it's fair.
We would have like friendly arguments, friendly banter about you need to get more done.
Let's be honest. It would get to a point where it'd be a pissing match. Look,
I'll let you say that.
but let's be real to whoever's watching this, right? Because the audience is small, we're gaining the trust, right? We're growing this thing. So here's the reality, and this is important because this is what the groundwork of building something looks like. And you know, we're at a 7-figure run rate for anybody that cares. That's kind of where we are. But this thing, we want to blow, right? And I don't want to blow up off of like one viral video. I want it to be sustainable, manageable, and intentional. So you would get really frustrated at me, and you kind of be like, but all right, like it's your business, Tony. You lead a charge. And actually, at one point, I said, hey, this is what I want to do. And you went, hey, man, sorry. I've heard this before. I can't do it. It's like, that all sounds great, but no more. And you know what's interesting? That actually invigorated me to be like, It's almost like I got a takeaway, and I was like, no, we're going to make this work. We're so close. And
that was even coming from a place with me because when you were talking about getting so frustrated early on, I was kind of running into that because I was trying to take what I've learned over the last handful of years, leverage, and outside of what we were doing, I was also really getting nowhere.
Yeah.
And it was really frustrating me to the point of, I'm not willing anymore to take that leap because I took that leap and I know what's down there. I just crawled myself back up from that.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah, like don't let anybody else dictate the outcomes. You have expectations of yourself. So so here's how as we were preparing for this podcast, I was like, all right, so if I were to, I'm not a coach on this. I'm not your freaking guru here, but I'm just sharing what's working. I did go through some I compartmentalized a little bit of what I'm self-evaluating. And so let's just take business is one, right? We already talked about how I self-evaluated. Me telling myself that I'm not a marketer leads to you never getting good at marketing. So I just started adding, you're not good at marketing yet. And it's a skill, learnable. There's a lot of people that are not as smart as me or have as much as experience as me in business that are doing way better. Aren't you pissed? Yes, evaluate, execute. So that was the business side, right? The other side then was, okay, relationships. Mm-hmm. How are you doing with your relationships, with your family, things like that? Because the business doubled, like in light speed, it took a while for me to adjust and for Ashley, my wife, to adjust. We went from kind of COVID to comfortable, 6-figure lifestyle. We were doing good. I'm not struggling to put food on the table at that point. I got great clients. I'm doing better than 80% of the population in the world, right? So probably actually higher than that. But when the business doubled, the travel doubled because we're not scalable. I'm on the road doing these things. And I was like, well, aren't you just happy about the bank account, babe? And she was like, no. And so we were kind of going through this friction. And it's like, I'm frustrated because I don't see how she doesn't see the outcome. She's frustrated because she doesn't see how it's impacting her emotionally. Is the juice worth the squeeze? I said, well, what's missing? And I went, you know what, man? Spiritually, something's missing. And so I self-evaluated that. I'm like, dude, where are you in that journey? And I'm not trying to preach to anybody about like what you should do with your own spirituality, but I was like, you know what? Christianity is the closest thing to you that you have access to. I'd struggled to find the right place for it, and I found the place, and I was like, you know what? This could be, in my self-evaluation, I'm doing everything to make my relationship at home work really well. The finances are good. You know, if I can, I take the bride on a date, right? I take care of the kid when I'm home, but none of that was enough. And I was like, something's freaking missing. What could it be? Man, you know what, dude? Your faith has been a little bit put on the back burner. Like, let's go there. And so then I started self-evaluating, well, shit. Now my faith was like, after I got to a place, I was like, oh man, I got a lot of work to do, but it's actually exciting. And some things started to solve. So you kind of go through these progressions, and the key word I keep going back to is progress.
Yes.
The thing that pisses you off at December 31st and gets you to go, oh, I'm gonna get it again this year, is because you can't look backwards and say, man, look at all the progress.
Yep.
And just like your kids in school, we give them progress reports, don't we? Like when you were in school, I know it's getting
I was
further.
going to say, every quarter we got one.
We got one, right? Because you don't want to know if you're passing or failing fifth grade by the time at the end, right? So like, why would you want to know in the school of life whether you're passing or failing at the end of the year? And everybody does that.
Yep.
And it'll even make it worse, they do it at the highest emotional time of the year. If things are going great, Christmas shines a light on it. If things are shit, Christmas shines a light on that. And it's the worst time to self-evaluate. What you should really be doing is like, what progress? Look at all the progress I've made. So I'm trying to stay on top of it, man. I'm not perfect. I make plenty of mistakes here.
No, and to add on to the perfect thing, I think something else really important to tag on to that is you can self-evaluate all you want. Having the discipline to make that change is also an extra factor to that.
Let me ask you a question, because you're kind of a loner like me. Like, we're in this weird place that we are building a business, especially Brian and I, my business partner, who you've had the luxury meeting. Well, I wouldn't call it luxury.
I will. He's probably watching this.
I don't want to boost his ego, but he's a great guy, obviously. But Brian and I, when we strategically created this partnership, were two self-employed sole proprietors that came together, right? And so there's a lot of, by the way, challenges that come with that. Like when you get two people that were used to just running their own show, and you've kind of been like that too. The reason I'm saying that is we're okay with isolation. We've been okay with isolation for a long time.
Yeah.
Part of it's your personality. Part of it's me being, 16, 17 years in this business, and I don't have, well, now I have employees, but the prior 13 years, it was just me. And so how do you look at evaluation from peers, like friends? Like, because if I were to give you advice, I'd actually find it kind of hard. Like, hey, Alex, I know you're doing it this way, but I think you should do it this way. Like, I would actually struggle with that.
Right.
And you may, I don't know, but like, how do you look at self-evaluation and then peer evaluation?
A self-evaluation, I feel, for me personally, is easy because I would find myself quite introspective. A lot of people struggle with being able to take a look inside, see what they're really thinking, what they're feeling. Maybe being raised by a single mother kind of helped put me on that realm. I was raised by a woman.
Single punk rock mom.
Yes.
That actually has a lot of context to it, because I think, not for nothing, I've actually met a couple former like punk rockers in business, and they're such freaking rule breakers, and almost to a point of being obstinate, and like, I don't give a shit what the rules are. I'm going, but for context, because I know your mom well, she's a steadfast, hard-ass, but punk rock woman, which is kind of the ethos of that lifestyle. So,
and one of the things that, and I've thought about this, actually, I've mentioned the story quite a bit to a few different people because it fits with so many different things. One of those key core memories I have as a child, I had to be no more than maybe 5 or 6. Something upset me, And I like threw a toy, started up a temper tantrum. She grabbed
Fuck this G.I.
Yeah,
Joe.
basically, yeah. She grabbed me by the shoulders, looked at me, she goes, "Why are you so mad?" And I went, "I don't know, I just feel," she looked at me, she goes, "No, stop. Take a breath. Think. Why are you mad? Tell me why you're mad." And she made me sit here, think about the situation, and explain to her my emotion. She later on told me, she goes, "Because you were not going to be raised as some dude that did not understand his emotions, that couldn't connect with someone, that couldn't relate with them, empathize, or share truly how you feel, lash out in either anger or shutting down." So for me personally, introspective is super easy. I honestly don't get a lot of peer review. I don't
Because
have...
you're somewhat of a loner, isolator. I've known you for a long time. That's your mode.
And I find myself, because I don't get a lot of peer review, when I do get peer review, and I'm getting better at this,
Yeah.
I usually get very defensive. Only because it's peer review.
Yeah.
If it was someone I saw as above me, more educated, more knowledgeable on it, I would be very much soaking it in like a sponge.
Yeah.
But if it's someone I view as a peer, because I'm such a loner, what have you, it's such a weird phrase, I don't like using
Well,
it.
it
but
just means like
fits
you're
the
okay with
moment.
being. I mean, I like it. I like being able to be comfortable by myself.
But because of that, I don't have that constant feedback loop of talking to someone, "Oh, well, you should do this, oh, don't do that," yada, yada.
Yeah.
I have like maybe 2 people in my life that do that,
Yeah.
and one is my client. And he only mentions that because he wants a specific edit.
Yeah.
But so when I do get a lot of peer review, I have to kind of take that step back to get rid of my ego to go, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Clearly they don't know what they're talking about. They're not the ones doing it. I'm the one doing this.
Right.
They're not.
You're defining the levels of emotional intelligence. Like there's 5 key levels of emotional intelligence. You got self-awareness, which is awareness of your emotions. You got self-regulation, your ability to regulate your emotions. You got social awareness, the awareness of other people's emotions. Social regulation, which is the tough one, being able to manage other people's emotions around you. And motivation, which is your willingness to go above and beyond kind of like what's just in front of you for your career job.
Gee, it's almost as if hanging around you for all these years, I've picked up a little bit of
Right.
something and
Well,
started
so like you
applying
said-
it to my daily life.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. But it's funny, you go, I'm in touch with my emotions, I have empathy, right? That's one really great hallmark of a pillar of emotional intelligence. But another pillar of emotional intelligence is how well you accept feedback. So like if you were to go like, what's Alex's emotional intelligence score? It'd probably be like, well, if I go 5 pillars, really high here, but it's really low here. So it ends up being kind of like average emotional intelligence. And the cool thing about it is it's a skill. So like, as we talk about self-evaluation, you could use peer evaluation to leverage that into self-evaluation because there's the measurable tools in there. So these things are fixable. They're not like your personality where you are kind of stuck with that. They're more of these things that you can look at and say, okay, I'm learning this. I can fix it through some tangible skill set and then have a better outcome. Then we're kind of back to self-evaluation. 90 days later, have I actively improved this?
Yep.
Right? Because, dude, tell me, I've actually given you some feedback and you go, you do this thing where you're like,
And see, I'm aware of it
Yeah.
though. I'm aware.
so like, your trigger is you get this pause moment, you take a deep breath. And what I would teach people whenever I do emotional intelligence training is like, all right, that thing you just did, you need to pick up on that. And you need to go, oh, this is my physical reaction to something when I don't get feedback. All right, so what's then the next action step? Pause, assess the situation, listen, say, help me understand why you think. Like, there's all kinds of tools to do it. So,
Bunch of nuance.
oh God, this isn't an EQ thing. So, look, I don't think we need to belabor this, but since it is April, and actually this went, like I said, I'm looking at the calendar over there. It's the 24th. This has gone about 20 days longer than I wanted to, but I've now done my self-evaluation for the first quarter. We got the next one coming up. Now, like how I take this information is I take it to the team, help them evaluate a little bit on like how it's going to impact the business. And biggest thing about introducing information and maybe something that you want to change, when you come prepared with data and how and why you came to these conclusions, is so critical to avoiding the friction of someone going, well, I thought we weren't going to do this until next year.
Yeah.
When you self-evaluate, you go, hey, I self-evaluated. I know we said we were going to do this next year, but based on the information that I've cultivated, I'm worried that this could happen, and I think this is the technique. Based on this, we should be able to do this.
And then the whole group starts whispering, he's self-evaluated.
Yeah. Freaking nuts. So, look, end of the day, if you can't do it, you're not going to be sitting December 31st looking at progress. If you can do it, man, that's a pretty good glass of champagne at the end of the year. We go,
absolutely.
Hey, man, I checked in on myself 3 times this year, and even if it was a 1% improvement, you're doing better than 99% of the population. With that said, welcome to the team, my brother, officially.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back to Wine and Wealth. 1 plastic cup of wine is what it took. You got the corporate Diet Coke. All right, crew. We'll get another one in. Till next time, happy selling.